Let's get started. How's everybody doing today? My name is Brett. I'm a customer success manager here. And thank you for joining my advanced webinar on Agile sprint planning and just doing more with Agile in general. Now, I see that we have a lot of attendees today. If everyone can hear me, would you mind throwing a smiley face in the chat? Awesome. Looks like everyone can hear me. Perfect. Cool. So to lay out today's webinar agenda, the 35 minutes or so will be me walking you through the platform and how to use monday.com for Agile workflows, sprint planning, giving a little bit of background on Agile. And then the last 20 minutes or so will be set aside for some Q&A. There is a lot of you here today, guys, so I want to make sure I get to all your questions and I have ample time to answer any that you have. So feel free to put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen rather than actually in the chat box, because there's a good chance that I will miss them. We'll try to get to all of them. If we don't, feel free to reach out to support@monday.com if you have a specific question that wasn't answered. If at any point you can't hear me or see my screen, please let us know in the chat right away. This works best in a group effort if most of you cannot be. And following the webinar, you will receive a link to a recording of this webinar. It will be available on demand eventually at monday.com/webinars, and it will also be shared with all of you via email within a day or two afterwards. Cool. So let's get started. So as I mentioned, we're going to be touching on the basics of Agile first. So for those of you who may not know, Agile is a methodology of project management. It was originally created and used by software developers, and it has since spread into more industries and businesses, and now is one of the most popular methods of managing projects. Agile plans via the use of sprints or iterations, which are short repeating periods of about 1 to 3 weeks in which a team focuses on a small set of work items and aims to complete them all during this period. What are some of the benefits of working in Agile methodology? I know many of you might have experience working with Agile. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts. If you can let me know in the chat some of these ideas. Yes, I am showing my inbox. No worries, guys. Taking ownership, flexible. Never heard of it? No problem, Tammy. We can give you a little bit more insight on that today. Awesome, guys. Cool. All of you are spot on in knowing these answers and throwing out some suggestions. Basically, what it is teams working in Agile should aim to complete everything during the sprint period, making it, marking things as done. It allows them to be flexible. It allows them to kind of make changes quickly and adapt to certain things that might happen along the way. And it really just allows them to work on a bulk of projects in a short period of time. That way, they're not working on a massive project over months or years or whatever it might be. Cool. I believe I saw someone mention retrospections, if my eyes aren't deceiving me, and yes, you nailed it. Using retrospections, the team and manager will become better at estimating how long it'll take to complete different types of tasks, or epics, as we call in Agile. And this helps teams become more productive in estimating their goals, and it gives them space to constantly review and seek to how to improve. Cool. So that being said, monday.com and Agile work really well together. Whether you're a software development team using monday.com for your sprint planning, or a sales or marketing team who want to adopt a more agile approach to your work processes, it's all possible. I want to start off quickly by showing you guys some of the templates that we have and how you can use them for Agile and then actually adapt them to your specific workflows. Let's just do one right here. Now, in terms of today's webinar, guys, I'm going to be showing you using Agile boards, not for software teams, but actually for a marketing team, which I've created. Software is a little bit more typical, so what I wanted to do was actually change it up a little bit and show you a marketing team using it. We're going to be using it for content production for our big name clients, along with other random tasks that we work off of. So you'll see that in a little bit, but here are some of the templates that we have available. We have a sprint planning board, a feature backlog, a bugs queue, and even mobile versions releases. Some of these are used best with software teams. However, you can always go ahead and click use and then edit all the information you see here, from the status labels to the actual column titles, deleting columns, adding columns, whatever it might be, changing colors, totally customizable to whatever you want to do it for. Cool. That being said, the first place I think we should start off in the Agile puzzle is the backlog, which happens to be actually a very important piece of the Agile puzzle. This is essentially our log of all different tasks, projects, and even ideas that we aren't working on at the moment, but need to keep track of so we can remember to implement them in the future coming iterations. Now, as you can see on my screen, I've broken the board down into two different groups, one for items and tasks that we need to prioritize, and then others for new ideas that we want to keep in mind for the future. These items here actually represent the actual tasks that we plan to implement next, whether that's coming iterations or whatever it might be. But to break the board down a little bit further and to make things a little bit more detailed and organized visually, we need to track the overall status of where these lie in our backlog. Hence why I added this status column here. We need to be able to anticipate moving them to our production board. And this is basically or essentially where we stand with that item in the backlog itself. And we've even added a way for us to keep track of when we anticipate these tasks to be moved to our iteration board. This can be done via the use of a bunch of different columns. However, in this one, I want to do it by weeks. So what did I do? I actually went ahead and added a numbers column here to the right of the status column. And I've gone ahead and just kind of planned out when I think that this was actually best aligned with the specific status labels that I've edited here. So for these ones that are new ideas, I've actually created it on hold. And as you can see, some of these weeks are actually further along in our timeline rather than these other ones which are pretty more recent, as you see 5, 3, 2, etc. That being said, I did want to mention that you can actually go ahead and edit this here. If you click on, one second guys, can everybody hear me still? Okay, cool. What you can actually do here is click on this icon right over here, weeks at the end of the numbers column, and you can go ahead and edit your own unit here. Now I can go ahead and remove that and show you guys. You can use this for all different things across the platform for different types of boards. But like I said, in this case, we're going to go ahead and make our, our label here weeks so that we can kind of see just a better idea of what we need to do. Now, as a way for our team to know how important some of these items are in terms of the overall impact, we've also added a rating column here to show the potential impact on our customers' target markets, right? And obviously this is determined with analytics in the back end, but for the reason of this webinar and purpose of this board, what we're going to go ahead and do is use it here with just a rating column. Now I've assigned different star levels based on the impact out of a scale of 5, and I've even done a sum here for the total. What you can do even is you can go ahead and edit this from stars to hearts. You can change colors if you need to. You can change a scale as 3, 4, 5, whatever it might be. I'm going to keep it as the stars and black, but you know what? Let's change it over to blue. Cool. For those of you asking how you do it, you can just go ahead and click on add a column here. We have a bunch. I am using the numbers column for the estimated lunch. And then you can go ahead and search for this in the column store for rating, all the other column types that you might think might be useful for your workflow. And as for this board itself, this is our backlog, guys. So as I was mentioning, this is kind of where we're keeping tasks on hold. As you'll see in a little bit, we will cover our actual iteration board, or our sprint planning. But for this board, for the sake of this board, we're kind of just keeping things here to keep track of things that we want to add in the future. So there's no actual date. These are just projected dates or estimated launches, but we can go ahead and actually implement them further down the line in our actual iterations later on. Now lastly, as you see over here, we have the tags column to track our epics, which I'll cover a little bit shortly, and the creation log, which gives us some additional info and transparency behind our team member to see, who added it, whatever it might be. Cool. Now, what's great about this board and some of the advanced features here is, yes, I have another board with our iterations, but sometimes I need to be able to move these things there seamlessly with the use of an automation. So what I've gone ahead and done is clicked on the automations up here, gone to the automation center and added one. I've added this specific one that when a status changes to upcoming, I want to move the item to the content production schedule board. Now, as you can see, if I click on this and change the status to upcoming, you'll see that the item has actually gone ahead and moved over to the other board. What's great about this is you can also use batch actions for a bunch of them in a row, as I have here, by hovering over one, clicking in, holding shift, and then clicking on the next one all the way down. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is just click in here and do the same thing and change the status label to upcoming. Now you'll see they are moving over to the next board, so we can continue to use that. And then one other last thing I wanted to mention. Sure, Lori, no problem. If you click on automations up here in the top right, it's this little robot icon. You'll see the automation center. You can kind of see all the different ones that we have. This is the one that I've added here. Now, one other thing I've done is I also added an integration, which is not necessarily necessary if you don't find it to be, but I've actually gone ahead and integrated with Slack. We use Slack over here to communicate internally. So what I did is when an item is created, I want to notify people in the content backlog channel. Basically what it is it will just tell them a new item was created in this board name by this user, just giving people kind of an update to go to that. Cool. The next board in this scenario we're going to cover is actually our content production agile style board where we'll keep track of our sprints. Let me jump to it. Awesome. Now, as you can see from this board, I've broken the board down into a few different groups, most of which represent the different sprints here. As you can see, in this case, I'm calling them iterations. And we do have one additional one for upcoming tasks or items that are going to be added to the next upcoming iteration, which relates to the automation that I just showed you. Here are all the tasks that are moved over. Then I can just go ahead and add these other information here. Now, the items on this board actually represent the requests, the tasks, projects from either planning, upper management, or directly from our customers that we're getting. Okay, so to take a step back, one very important thing to remember when working in Agile is to take ownership of tasks and jobs. We have a lot of things that we need to get done in this short 2-week period, and to ensure that nothing slips through the cracks, we need to assign specific people to handle each different job. That's why I've gone ahead and added this people column here, and I'm assigning actual team members through the people column to let them know that they are actually the one doing this. Now, this is not only telling us who it's actually assigned to, but this also gives the other team members on the board the visibility to see where responsibility falls, especially if some tasks are dependent on others. That being said, guys, sometimes tasks can be worked on by multiple different people, which you can obviously go ahead and do and add another person. However, sometimes you actually need to go ahead and maybe it's a whole team of people, 4, 5, 6. You don't want to constantly be adding these same people to all these different pulses. Yes, you can use batch actions, but one thing I really want to show you, one great feature we have today is the use of teams. Not only can I assign just one person in the people column, but I also have the ability to assign an entire team as I've done here, which is the blogging team. Now to add a team, all you have to do is click on your avatar here in the bottom left-hand corner, scroll over to teams, and then you'll see the ability to add a new team up here. All you'd have to do is just name it. And then you can go ahead and start adding people from your account just by searching up their name. Now you can see I do have the blogging team here, and I even have the marketing team, which is comprised of 6 members and 10 members. Cool, let's backtrack to our board now. However, for planning on this board, guys, our team felt it would be best to not only show the overall status of the job for the transparency we need, but also we need a way to know how we can prioritize things based on how important they are for future sprints. This is what we should be doing first. even though we want to complete everything during the sprint, we should still be working on the most urgent tasks first to ensure that they definitely get done in case we run out of time or in case something happens which causes our estimations wrong or whatever it might be, which is why we've gone ahead and added this priority column here to kind of go ahead and just sort what the priority is of these different tasks. And this is sorted by best effort, high, medium, low. Again, you can change these labels to whatever you need and change colors by clicking on the droplet, whatever it might be. Now, one key thing for Agile is estimations. They help you plan your resources out. So think about it like this. You have X amount of people in your team with X amount of time, either story points or hours, as we refer to in Agile, and you want to split up their time according to the different epics and projects they're working on. Now, estimations are how you base your assignment of tasks. In this case, we're using hours to track how long it will take in order to finish the job of that size. And obviously team members have different responsibilities for other things they're doing. They're not just working on this, they're answering emails, calls, whatever it might be. So we need to be able to kind of give this estimation here based on these hours or story points. And what I've gone ahead and done is actually used another numbers column. It's very similar to our weeks column on the estimated rollout on our content backlog board. And I've gone ahead and actually done the same thing and added my own unit for hours. Now you can see I've assigned different hours based on the different effort levels that we've also done here, which is very similar to our impact one. Yes, we could have done impact again, but in this case, we want to do effort to track, how aggressive or passive we're being in planning our tasks and how much we can take on in one iteration related to our estimations from our past board. And again, like I said, guys, you can change the scale to 3, 4, 5, and it's totally customizable to what you guys need. As for the average, all you have to do is click on this here. You can choose none, some, which I could do this. I like doing the average to see what the kind of average one is in this actual iteration or sprint. And then there's other options here as well. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we are using a tags column for a way to track our epics. Does anyone happen to know what epics are in Agile? If you do, would you mind throwing out your best answer in the chat? No problem, Tara. I'll cover that in 1 second. Right, some of you are spot on. Basically, epics are a group, a body of work. It can really be anything you want, as many people know, but it could be a body of work, a group of tasks, and a larger scale project as a whole. But basically what we're doing is we're using this column over multiple boards. So not only can we click on a tag to actually open up to see all the different items with this tag. Content backlog, as you see, it's a different board, but it's also showing me through all the iterations. It's a good way to keep track of things, yep. But we can also do here is we can actually go ahead and add a specific view. What I've gone ahead and done is added the chart view here to kind of give me a breakdown and track things internally for our marketing team to see where it's spread out across our different epics. Now, as you can see, I've weighted them by count here. I've done a pie chart, and I've chosen the epics as the options here. Now it's broken down. If you hover over, it will show you what the epic is, the number of count, as you can also see from the log here. Now, I could easily switch this to a bar graph if needed to, or even a line graph if I like. Personally, I like the pie, and I'm going to go with epics. You could also do it based on priority if you needed to, also weighted by count. Based on estimation, the effort level, it's totally up to you guys. I'm going to stick with the epics. I think it works best here in this scenario. So it's obviously going to help me out here in terms of keeping track of things and what's going on. Now, while we're on the subject of views, another view that's used quite often within the views or within Agile planning is actually Kanban. Now, Kanban style workflows and cards are not always used in Scrum or Agile planning, but within monday.com, they give you a really nice visual of tracking different status columns or even the priority levels. So what we can do is we can go ahead here and add priority. and then we can assign column by the project manager and then divide by groups even if we needed to kind of see where things lie in terms of priority, or we could switch it to the status, as this does only link up with the different status labels. Now you can always click and drag to reorder, totally up to you guys. But I think the Kanban view is another great way to kind of switch back between these. Now let's jump back to our main table up here. There are a few things I want to show you quickly with this board, not only in relation to views, but some of the other advanced features. One thing here would be to search and filter the board. Now what I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and filter by a specific person. Let's say I want to see all of my tasks across this entire iteration, or this entire sprint planning. Now it does show me in the creation log, so it's not going to help here. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and phase out Derek, and I'm going to save this as a new view. Now I can go ahead and title this Derek's view. And then we can make one of these for each person on their team here. What we could do would be to just go ahead and click here and view Derek's view. And then as we go along, this not only works great for that specific person who wants to just see their stuff and not have to just search constantly and look for things and scroll, but this also helps for managers who are kind of breaking the board down and searching by a specific person and need to see who's working on what, when, what iteration they worked on things, kind of to sum up this workload. Cool. Now, another great thing that I want to do and show you guys here in this board is some of the advanced features here, which similar to one thing that we've actually added recently is, yes, you can have a progress tracking column, which is a totally separate column here that would actually track the progress of all your status columns. If you let it, you choose the weight. But one thing we've done here is added the column summary here. Now, if I click this, it'll actually hide that. But I'm going to show the column summary, which what it does, it allows you kind of see the number of them vertically. So if this group was really, really long and I didn't feel like going ahead and counting between all the different ones like this, I could actually just scroll over here and see that 3 out of 11 are based on best effort, 3 out of 11 are based on high effort, 2 out of 11 are based on low, and 3 out of 11 are based on medium. Cool. Okay, great. So we've covered the two main pieces of Agile. However, one final piece to our Agile puzzle for our marketing team is the creation of our retrospective board. As I mentioned earlier, retrospectives are a way for team members and the team as a whole to kind of see what worked, what didn't work, what they can improve upon the next time they're going to be working on things. Basically, it's a place to have an open office discussion to talk about what we did, if we felt we were efficient. The main place of information will be housed in the update section. So we'll be able to have that open office discussion, like I mentioned, and we'll be able to evaluate and realign if we need to. So for this board specifically, one thing that you can do is obviously you can duplicate your other board and use it as a template. But what I've gone ahead and done here is actually added the update section where I can go ahead and we can have this chat. For example, I've gone ahead and added one update saying what we did. We've optimized the page width, we've different tone of voice, new call to actions for redesigning a landing page, whatever it might be. And then I've actually added another update here where I've mentioned my entire marketing team, so they'll get a notification, and wrote update. As a team, we felt after some review, this task within our project could have been done a little bit better and should have been moved to the backlog for future iteration of work. And then FYI at the blocking team. Now to mention someone, guys, you literally just do and then I could do marketing team. It'll create an update. But basically what we've done on this board is we've actually pulled in a mirror column by using a link to a specific board. You can go ahead and add more columns, type in mirror. And what this does, it allows you to create a link between other boards here. I'm going to do the same link, and then you can choose what the different status, what the different column info you want to pull in. So for this one, I'm going to say, let's pull in the priority level. Now, as you can see, now it's pulling in the priority level here from our actual iteration board, because that's the board I've linked to. And then you just have to choose which one of these matches up with which item on the other board. Great. Now, the purpose of this board, again, is to review things, guys, and to go over things and to make sure that we're kind of, able to discuss different things and see where we lie on this specific topic that we worked on, with this specific task in that iteration. Normally within Agile, you do have meetings every day, whether that's for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, they're called stand-ups. And this is where we would kind of go over this retrospective board as a team to kind of fill in all this information and be able to review these things. Now, I've gone ahead and added another status column on this board with specific labels such as good job team, meaning we crush it, we don't need to review this any further. Change, meaning we should really go back and make sure we work on this again for a future iteration, or that we even need to review this one further. We haven't had a chance to look at it yet. So really what I'm doing is I'm aligning whether or not we were efficient. And then if we feel that we need to change it, let's go ahead and add some comments in here. We could have a bunch of team members here. This would be our open office discussion. Cool. Now, last but not least comes our way of tracking things. We need to be able to pull in information, track data, give some results to team leads, managers, whatever it might be, in order to see how we're working, what's being worked on, so on. That's why we've gone ahead over here, and I've created a dashboard. Now, to get to the dashboards, again, you open up the left pane. From the board's view, it would actually be here at the bottom, click dashboards, and I've actually made a dashboard already. Now I'm using the dark mode, which is a feature that we just recently implemented. You can switch between light and dark. Personally, I like dark. I think it's a little easier on my eyes. But I've added different widgets here in order to track this data. So basically, to give you a rundown of my dashboard, what I'm doing to track this data is I'm using different chart widgets, different number widgets. I'm even using that countdown widget here to track the number of days to my next iteration. But basically, to give a further breakdown, I'm tracking the overall status of all my iteration tasks from my content production board, meaning how many of these are done, how many of these are upcoming, waiting for review, waiting for deployment, and even ongoing. I'm also tracking the overall status of our backlog tasks, meaning how many of these are for planning, research, and on hold. As you can see, these are the only 3 colors here, but we did have the ones for ready and upcoming. We just moved them to our actual other board, hence why they're here. I'm also tracking the level of priority between all of my iteration tasks, as I mentioned. That's medium, high, best effort, and low. Basically, just give me a further breakdown on, what's being, where's our effort lying? Where's the majority of our tasks? Are they all high priority? Are they all requiring our best effort? Or some of these quick tasks that are require a little bit of low priority? So that's one way that we're doing it here. And then I'm also tracking the impact of these different tasks across the actual epics. So again, same thing here. We've gone ahead and tracked the epics like I showed you on that other board with another chart widget. Now for this widget over here, I'm using the numbers widget to be able to track the total level or the average level of stars or effort level within the actual iteration. Now you can go ahead, guys, and do the same thing here and edit this. You can do the average, the sum, whatever it might be. Like I said, I like doing the average because I think it gives you a better baseline. I've gone ahead and done the same thing over here for the average impact of our backlog tasks, as we had those impact levels or ratings within a rating column. And then we also have a countdown widget here to count down to the next iteration, where I've gone ahead and set a specific date and time. Now, there's plenty of other widgets that we can use here. If you guys wanted to, what you could do would add to use a battery widget here, which we could use for the production schedule and even the backlog together. I can choose which I want to see. And then I can even base it off the estimation and estimated launch. Now, what makes the most sense for me, in my opinion, is what I'm going to actually do here is only can do it for one board, and then add another battery widget here for the backlog board. And then click done. So now I have both of these together. Like I said, the dashboards are a way that you can pull in information from multiple different boards to be able to kind of keep track of data and see things all at once. I have these different charts here. I have my different number widgets. I have my different battery widgets that I can even click and drag. I can make them larger if I needed to. And then I could even go ahead and add more different widgets if I felt like it was necessary. We do have a bunch here. I recommend checking these out on your own for the dashboard in general. And you'll see that some of these actually are incredibly useful. Now, one thing that I did want to show, and one widget that we do see a lot of people ask about, is the actual table widget. Now, the table widget, what it does here is it allows you to pull in multiple boards into one board, or one place rather. And you can choose which groups. And then once this is in here, I can go ahead and even make this full screen if I wanted to. This will actually show me the different boards, and I can go ahead and seamlessly edit in this widget, make changes, write updates, comment to my team. Now, if you guys had 4 or 5 different boards that you needed to see all at once, what you could do would be to add all of these widgets here in one place. Now, the table widget here is the best thing, in my opinion, to be able to track these boards. So I would go ahead and added that one. Now, what's great about it is you can also filter with it if you needed to, like you just saw, by searching by a person, by text, whatever it might be. Totally up to you guys and how you want to use it. But this is great for teams as a whole to use, whatever it might be, or even managers themselves if they need to track information. Cool.